Do you fear the unknown? On today's show, we're going to be talking about 7 different ways of how to deal with the unknown.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Manifestation Mindset, where we talk about the mindset of manifesting, dealing with our emotions that come up when we have challenges in our life, and breaking through our limitations. And we are live here every Tuesday and Thursday at 2 p.m. Pacific time. Make sure you guys join us here on the show. We are your hosts. I'm Dr. Aaron Garcia.
And I'm Veronica Mendez Garcia. And we go live, like Aaron said, 2 p.m. Pacific, Tuesdays and Thursdays. And if you want to subscribe to our show, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. Also, if you like the videos, give us a thumbs up. And remember to click the bell icon so you can get notified of every time we go live.
So we're talking about in today's episode, dealing with the unknown. We all come across this at some point. It's when we want to step into something greater in our life, we're moving into something new. A lot of times we get caught up in the fear of what's going to happen. Are things going to work out? And a lot of times that fear can stop people from moving in the direction that they really want to go. And how do we deal with that? How do we push through that fear and overcome that so that way we can always keep driving forward rather than falling backward and staying where we are at?
And Bob Proctor, he talks about this, during some of his seminars or his teachings, where he mentioned something called the terror barrier. So it's like this really fearful emotion that comes up with some people when they're starting something new, when they're venturing on a new journey, starting a new business. It's like that fear will come up because anytime you're doing something new, you're out of your comfort zone. So that's what he calls the terror barrier.
Yeah, and we all experience this at some times is when that fear stops us from doing the things that we really want. And and when we don't do it, we go into what we call the comfort zone. And we may not like where we are in the comfort zone, but it's familiar to us. And this is things that we go off based off of habit and our conditioning. And what do we do? And how can we push forward? And that's the things that we're going to share with you today here. And I remember going through these different types of experiences for different careers, different jobs. I remember when I was planning on going to school and transitioning from undergraduate school and going into a doctorate program and stepping into that because the biggest change, I was excited to go to school, and this was a chiropractic school at the time. But the biggest change for me was leaving the workplace because all through, starting from like 17 all the way through college, I was always working. I had a job, and I was used to getting a paycheck. And one of the things that when I went to school was that was a full time gig for me, and I had to make that decision that I'm not going to be working for the next 3.5 to 4 years while I'm going through my schooling program, and I had to make that decision. And I remember going through that was really, it was strange. It was scary because my mind was saying, how am I going to pay for things? How am I going to buy the food that I want to eat? And, I'm driving, and what about gas? And those are the things that were riling up. Now I was going to be moving forward, but still that fear was there because I was so used to doing things in a certain way, and to change that and do something completely different, it was that unknown, not knowing what was going to happen. And our mind can definitely go to the worst case scenarios, can it?
Mm-hmm. So in your scenario, so what did you do? Who did you rely on?
Well, not knowing what was going to happen, I took that leap because I was already committed.
Mm-hmm.
That was the biggest thing, that I already signed up. It wasn't like I'm going to stop because I don't know what to do. So I moved out of the place that I was living with at the time. I had a lot of roommates. I was living on
Mm-hmm.
my own, and I went and moved back home because I
Mm-hmm.
obviously, if I'm not working, then I wouldn't be able to pay for rent or utilities and all these things. So I moved back into my family's house where I can at least focus on my studies and not have to think about the
So
finances.
there was a solution.
There was a solution.
Yeah.
But again, and that change was that I really want to make that change, and my my vision for what I wanted, my goal was so much bigger than you know the life that I was living. It's like that was what drove me forward.
Mm-hmm.
And those are the things that we have to look at. Is a lot of times people want to do something different. We were having this discussion with our daughter earlier today about changing work environments.
Yeah, people tend to get comfortable where they're at, and to make a big change like that, sometimes it's too uncomfortable, so they stay where they're at. And even if they're unhappy, they'll stay where they're at. And how many of us have done that? Whether it's in a job or a relationship, living somewhere where you don't really enjoy. So there's different ways in which people do this. So the first thing is understanding what your fear is. And it's like, okay, what is this fear that I'm feeling when it comes to the unknown?
Yeah. And the biggest thing too, and this is in our work that we do with people, we were working with a lot of people this week. And one of the biggest things is when they're feeling stuck in their life, they don't know why, but they feel something's blocking them from taking that next step. Oh, and it's really helping people to identify what they're feeling. Because if there's a underlying fear there, it's like we want to be acknowledge and be aware of, wow, I'm scared. There's a fear, there is a fear here because you feel that in your body. It resonates to your whole entire nervous system. Your heart rate increases. You feel it, whatever that is. And so acknowledge and be aware that, wow, I have a fear with what it is I want to do. It
Hmm.
makes you nervous, and that's the same concept. You feel it throughout your body. But once you identify, like, wow, I feel scared, and so when we identify what we feel, then we can really start to work through that.
Yeah, so the next thing is find the cause. And a lot of times our negative experiences is what causes our fear of the unknown, because we associate a certain experience with things that happen, or we associate sometimes going to a certain place, or like, here's an example. If for those of you who drive, say you're in a big car accident, and that will really shake you up. So the next time you get in your car, you find yourself driving a little more tense, or just being like, maybe your heart rate increases, and you're not really aware until you really start to pay attention to how you're feeling, and that's the awareness. And then now you're associating getting in a car and driving to possibly getting into an accident. And that's common for a lot of people.
Yeah.
It's the association of our negative experience that happen, and that's how we create scenarios in our mind. And then our perception tells us, oh, it's not safe. This going here isn't safe, or certain things like that.
Yeah, because we're conditioned to think in a certain way and believe things. And so when we talk about I feel fear, I feel these emotions, there is a reason for that. There is a cause to why you're feeling the way you do. You may not know what that is. A lot of times it goes unconscious. We're not aware, but our the reaction will tend to show up. And so everything will start as an idea in our mind. And as we're moving closer to what we want to do, a lot of times it's a growth phase that we're going to be going through. We're doing something we haven't done before. And so what's going to show up is your stuff. It's all the stuff that we have to work through in our inner world. All of our insecurities, our doubts, our worries, and that's going to come up to the surface and you're going to feel that. And
Yeah.
it's going to shake you up. And it makes it very difficult to really think and rationalize about all the different possibilities and solutions to moving forward. And so once we identify why do we get that, and this is where we help people is where do we feel stuck? Why are you feeling the way that you feel? And let's desensitize. Let's remove that by understanding where the cause is. Let's deal with the emotion and the energy that's around that. And once they're able to process, then when they start to take that next step forward, they don't feel all those emotions come up. They feel more hopeful. There is a sense of I can take that next step.
Hmm.
And then when the next resistance or barrier shows up, that's when we work on that.
So also find ways to cope with the hurdles that you may face because sometimes you're presented with challenges and it's just finding solutions and how to deal with that. So the next thing would be question your fear and and the perception. We all have a perception of what might happen, and a lot of times it's stuff that happen that you're worried about something that's happening in the future or that hasn't even happened yet. So
Mhm.
it's like I'm worried about this, and it's it's that fear of like what's going to happen.
We were working with a good friend of ours a few months back, and this is around I think probably when COVID started to happen, and he was transitioning into a new career, and he was leaving an old business that he was running. Like he ran a couple different businesses, but one that was he was holding on to that wasn't doing so well, but he felt responsible because there was other people that were involved in that business, and he felt that it was time for him to transition into a new career into something completely different. But he was hanging on. He was hanging on to this old business, and he was having a very difficult time emotionally. He wasn't sure what to do next, and so we just sat with him and asked him a few questions and looked at how well is this business doing for me? Well, it's not doing so great. Okay, and since there was one other person that was involved, because if they let the business go, that person would have to go find some other work to do. And he was feeling bad about this other person. And then we asked, okay, well, if you were to, call it quits or end this job today, what would happen? And then when you get a chance to really think and ask yourself these questions, and you can write these down on a piece of paper, is if I take that next step forward, what from your perception right now, what will happen? And then you write all the words you came down. And he says, well, this will happen. I'll be able to focus on these things. There might be a combination of good and bad things that might show up, but put those down on a piece of paper. And then it's okay, that's probably that what you think may happen. And then you can ask yourself, well, if you take that next step forward, what won't happen? Because our mind, especially when the fear comes up, it will go towards the worst case scenario. If I do this, all hell is going to break loose and the world is going to end. And a lot of times it's those worries and fears that are imaginary and made up in our mind, but they don't necessarily always happen. So you want to write those down. What won't happen? What's the worst case that won't, right? And then you can ask yourself, well, if I do this, it's what's the possibilities? What can happen for me? And then you start to think of all the positives. And if you find that there is a worst case scenario, then just pay attention to that. But those are the things we were helping him to identify. Like if you were to cut this in the business and this guy had to go and take care of his own thing, would he be homeless on the street? And he's like, well, no. Do you think he would eventually find something else to do? It's like, well, yes. And because people will find the way, we always are good at adapting.
And then also something to add to that would be to add three examples. Write down three examples of situations in which you have successfully coped with the unknown, because it's a lot of everything is unknown. When you really think about it, like you don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. You don't know what's going to happen a week from now. You can plan for it, but what actually transpires is really unknown because it's really like anything can change from one day to another. Look
Hmm.
at when COVID happened. That was a big change for the whole world.
And it's still a lot of
And
unknown.
it's still, yeah, there's still a lot of unknown with that. So, um, but by focusing on three successful ways in which you have, coped with the unknown successfully, then it's really putting that positivity into
Absolutely. And before we continue, I just want to say hello to a few people that are joining with us. I want to say hello to Gil Solis.
it. Hey, Gail,
He says, "Good to see you both."
thank you for
And
joining
as we were
us.
talking earlier about the fears and the worries, he says it's like mental poison,
Mm,
and
it
it can be
is.
because when you're full of any fear or worries or even doubts, think about how that makes you feel on the inside. Does it feel good or does it feel bad? And when you pay attention to it, it's like you realize that it doesn't feel very good. So what is that doing? If you're feeling something, that's making a whole entire change into your body, and that suppressed fear
Hmm.
gets expressed through the body as anxiety. So when people are full of like anxiety attacks or concerns or chronic worry, that's deteriorating on the body, and a lot of physical health problems will tend to manifest themselves based on those worries that are always there because they can make you sick. And that's the things when I started working in the health field was how much the like our emotional stress really was what it was doing to our body, and all the issues that were coming in to see me, and I mean, Veronica experienced this too, was it was all the financial worries, the relationship problems, the other challenges in their work, their business, their children, whatever that might be, family, and they weren't expressing it, and but their body was expressing it, and they weren't connecting the two. And when we helped them to identify and release that, all their physical pain started to go away,
Hmm.
and but not only that, but also their life started to improve. And so that's why when we decided to do this work together, it was something that was life changing because we were able to help people. And we're here to help you and share this message of how do we move forward? How do we get past these emotions? How do we deal with them? Change the way that we think so we can manifest the life that we truly want.
Also, earlier you talked about failure. So another step is accept failure as an option, because when once you do that and you accept that, like, okay, there's a possibility that I may fail, then it's like that stress or worry about failing isn't as strong anymore because you've already accepted it. And anytime you're embarking on a new journey, starting a new company, new career, it's going to take you out of your comfort zone. So it's be prepared to be uncomfortable. And that's a good thing because if you're comfortable, you're not moving forward. You're just staying put. You're staying where you are. So it's okay to feel uncomfortable. It's okay to feel the fears and the worries, but keep moving forward with
Yeah.
it.
And so then that the whole preparation is I remember reading it was from the book How to Stop Worrying and Stop Living by Dale Carnegie. It's a fascinating book. Go out and read it because there's a lot of great nuggets in there. And I always one of the stories that always sticks out with me is there was a story of a gentleman who was diagnosed with cancer, and the doctors gave him you have X amount of time to live, and it was like either 3 or 6 months. And so most people get that they're worried, they're concerned, and so what the guy decided to do was, I'm going. He just accepted that I'm going to pass away. I have 6 months. This is going to happen. He accepted the fact that he was going to die. And so what he did was, well, in that time, I'm going to make the most of it, and I'm going to go and travel and do the things that I wanted to do. So he planned time to travel and see the world. And what, as he was going through this, because it was way back when you travel, you had to go by ship. So it's an old story. But when he was telling it, the guy had to make plans because they were saying, if you come on this boat, it's gonna be a few weeks. You may not make it. So he prepared for that. And the way he prepared for that was he brought his own coffin. He brought his own coffin onto this ship just in case he did pass away during that time. They could at least put him in the coffin and they can send him off to his family. So he made all these different preparations that he didn't really have to think about. So he can just focus on his trip and enjoy. And because of that, he wasn't worried about what was going to happen. He already had it prepared and planned. His cancer went away. He survived. because it was all his chronic worry in the past that was deteriorating and eating at him on the inside. And by accepting his fate and planning for that, planning for the worst case scenario never happened. And so it's just a food for thought. And when we plan for things is, what if this worst thing was to happen? What would you do? How would you prepare?
Hmm.
What would be the next step that you would take? And then when you prepare for that, it will give you a peace of mind.
Yeah, and that's one of the next steps is embracing the change, like embracing the changes that are occurring now, like with COVID. It's like we all have to embrace this big change that we're all going through because it's not just one person, it's the entire world. So embrace it. Like it's something that's happening, so we have to deal with it. Just embrace it. Don't try to fight it because the more you fight it, the more frustrated and maybe worry you're going to create for yourself. So it's just kind of go along with what's happening, and it is what it is. And especially if you can't do anything to change it and make it go away in one day, then just embrace that change. And it could
Mhm.
be something that you like or don't like. So change is change. It'll create some discomfort
Yeah, and I think when we
though.
try to fight the change, we're creating resistance. It's
Hmm.
like trying to swim upstream against a really powerful river, and that you're going to burn yourself out. You're going to tax, and eventually, nature's going to find its way. But it's like when you learn to just let go and go with the flow of the
Hmm.
water and allow just go with the flow of the way nature works. You it's easier for you to think. You can adapt. You can come up with better solutions and different ideas. There's so much opportunity. If you're like if people are focused on I can only do this and they keep themselves stuck in this little narrow box, when in reality there is no box, but we put that box on our own vision process. When there's so many different things that we could possibly do out there, and it's interesting because of fear people won't allow themselves to see other possibilities, different ways to look at things, different, if there's a job issue and they don't know what to do for the work, like there's so many opportunities for work, and whether it's working, going to find a job working for someone, but it's also opportunity to start your own thing, something that you will love to do.
Hmm.
But there's endless possibilities. Just making the decision what it is that you want to do. That becomes that's another process. But once you figure out what it is that you want to do, just understand that you can do whatever it is that you want to do. You just got to find a way to do that. But there's multiple ways. You don't have to box yourself into just one idea or one thought process.
And the last step is when we're dealing with the unknown and things like that is practicing like meditation, mindfulness, like be have that awareness of how you're feeling, but do something to help you calm your system down. Meditating is something that will really bring more peace to your inner self, because everything starts in the mind, and if we're creating worry and fear, it's all up in the mind. So find ways to relax the mind. Maybe put on some meditation music. Just take that time to allow your body to just be and relax. And sometimes you might find yourself being more calm in certain situations. And the way I see the unknown and that whole thing is it can be scary, but be excited for it's like treat it like kind of like when you're going to open a present and you don't know what's in there, but you're excited to open it. That's the unknown as well.
Hmm.
So if you're excited for your future, excited for what's to come, it's like how can there be fear in that? Because you have that excitement of like, I wonder what's gonna happen today, or I wonder what's gonna happen tomorrow, and just have the excitement and the joy with it versus the fear and the worry and anxiety, and it will change how you see things.
Yeah. So think about just your own personal experiences in your life. You might be going through something right now. You might be, been thinking about or contemplating, I need to do this or I need to take this next step, and you're trying to figure out what to do. But let's go back. Let's go back and look at different times in our life when we had to make decisions, where we had to step out and do something new, maybe it was moving to a new location. Maybe it was when you were younger, changing schools, or there's so many different possibilities, changing jobs. And think about how you felt each time when you made those big dramatic changes in your life. How did that feel? Sometimes it could be exciting, but a little nerve wracking at first because, again, we don't know what's to come. But if
Mhm.
you go back and look at it, you can say, what was that? What was the result of that experience? When I took that leap, what happened? And you could either say, oh, I had a very bad experience or I had a good experience. But even if there's a bad experience with that, think about where that led you in your life. Because of that past experience, I would not be the person that I am today. Because even in those challenging moments, we take a leap of faith and maybe it doesn't work out the way we wanted to. You will learn something. We learn something more about ourselves. We learn about things that we say that we want, but we realize that we don't want those once we experience that. And what does that do? It just changes that. Well, now I didn't really want that. I can choose to do something new.
Mhm.
And so we were always kind of not checks and balances, but like when I was in chemistry class, it's always about testing, testing what works.
Like
And
evaluating certain things.
yeah, it's always evaluating. And it's like the A/B testing in the marketing world is like, hey, try different things because eventually you're going to stumble onto something that works for you. But a lot of times we have to, trial and error. That's the word I was looking for.
Mhm.
We do trial and error on things and figure out, okay, I want to just test this out. You know what? I didn't like that very much. Or, I really loved doing that. I'm going to do more of that. And
Mhm.
so we are always going through this growth and learning process. And when we step past that wall, that breaking point that's bringing up that fear, we grow a little bit more.
Mhm. Yeah, so that's all the steps we have for today, and it's really finding ways to even make you more happy, finding ways to feel more excited about what's to come, and just treat it like a gift
Hmm.
because you don't know what the universe has in store for you, but I'll always remember also to find the good in everything. Because if you're focusing on the bad, what's going to happen? You're going to attract more bad situations that appear bad, but it's really focus your mind and your energy on all the good that's around
Absolutely. Well, we hope this video and episode has been helpful for you today. If you know that there's anybody that can benefit from this message and hey, I know someone that might need to hear this, please share this video with them because we never know who this message is going to impact. And you can have them subscribe to the channel. If you haven't done so, make sure you can subscribe here. You can subscribe. And if you enjoy the video, give us a thumbs up here and like the video. And also make sure to click on that bell notification to be reminded each time when we have a new video that's posted.
you.
And
And oh, go ahead.
go ahead. No, no.
I was gonna say, remember we go live every Tuesdays and Thursdays at 2 p.m. Pacific. So hit the bell reminder,
Yeah.
and you'll get the notification.
And if you need to find us, you can find us here on YouTube at aaronveronica.com. That will take you to our YouTube channel. And you can see all the videos and episodes we have with manifestation mindset. So make sure you guys go there. You can share that link with other people too if they want to find this show and hear everything we have going on. And we appreciate you guys and we thank you for being here.
All right. So have a great day.
And we'll see you next time.